So the movie kicks off in Ireland with a bunch of monks who are quietly sneaking up on some witches. They end up stopping these witches right before they finish their ritual, which is pretty intense. They even manage to take down the main witch, Morrigan, who's the queen witch. Fast forward 1500 years and we meet Fiona Scott, an archaeologist. She's giving a talk to her funders about this pagan goddess Morrigan. Fiona explains how the real story of Morrigan got really twisted over the years, mainly because the church wanted to paint her in a certain light. She's not just some scary figure from a myth, she's a real queen with a story that deserves to be told. The monastery site at Annan Island may provide evidence of her existence. Local folklore states that the Morrigan and her followers took refuge on Annan Island after a brutal battle and were subsequently massacred and buried there. Fiona asks the authorities to give her authority to go to Annan Island to excavate Morrigan's tomb. One of the men on the panel asks Fiona if she has any idea about why the ancient Celtic queen was brutally disposed of. Fiona replies that the men were feared of her as she was immortal, a goddess not just of death, but of regeneration and rebirth. The panel requests that Fiona step outside the room while they discuss. Fiona waits outside until they reach a decision. Shortly after, she is summoned back in and informed that the panel has approved the excavation of Annan Island, with Dr. Horner Jonathan appointed to oversee the project. 9 months later, Fiona and her team, which includes her teenage daughter Lily, arrive at Annan Island on the west coast of Ireland. They are greeted by a man named Malachy who will guide them to the monastery. Lily climbs into the truck and notices a chicken carcass inside, which gives her the creeps. Malachy takes the wheel and drives them to the old monastery ruins. As they arrive, Lily's eyes catch a crow digging into a dead chicken, and it sends a chill down her spine. She grabs a stone, ready to take a shot at the crow, but Malachy quickly jumps in, telling her to shrug it off. Beneath the monastery's tunnels, Jonathan and his assistant Connor stumble upon an inscribed figure on the wall that leaves them amazed. Lily, Malachy, and Fiona also arrive in the tunnel, bringing them back together with Jonathan and Connor. Malachy escorts Lily to the hotel while Fiona chooses to stay in the tunnel to gather her equipment. Fiona and Connor venture deeper into the tunnel, where Connor points out the inscribed figure on the wall, inquiring if it has any connection to the Morrigan, to which Fiona responds maybe. Malachy brings Lily to the hotel. While heading to the room, Lily notices a picture on the wall. Malachy mentions that it's a portrait of his late wife Mary. Curious, Lily inquires how his wife died. Malachy replies that Mary had fallen from a cliff. Meanwhile, the telephone begins to ring below, so Malachy goes to take the call. Lily stares at Mary's picture and hears whispers echoing through the hotel. Soon, she sees a demonic entity in the picture. Shortly, Malachy returns and takes her upstairs. Under the monastery ruins, Fiona and Connor dig the tunnel in an attempt to find Morrigan's tomb. Back at the hotel, Sean is trying to win Lily over, clearly smitten with her. However, she doesn't seem to be in the mood to return the favor, so she pedals away on her bicycle to the seashore. There she takes a drag from her cigarette, enjoying a moment of peace all to herself. Returning to the monastery ruins, Fiona manages to crawl into the tunnel when she senses something awaiting her, but finds that she cannot squeeze in. Consequently, Jonathan, the leader of the mission, instructs her to turn back. Fiona reluctantly agrees, but just then a pile of debris collapses, obstructing her exit. Fiona clears away some junk and unexpectedly finds a hidden chamber up ahead. She lets the others know about it and crawls in, only to come face to face with a casket resting in the shadows. They quickly load it onto the truck and hit the road. Fiona tells Jonathan they should just open it right there, but he's not having it. He insists they'll wait until they get to Dublin to show it to the Irish authorities. Out of nowhere, a crow smacks right into the windshield, totally freaking everyone out inside. They brush it off and keep heading to the hotel. Sean turns to his dad, Malachy, and suggests they tell Uncle Francis about their find. Malachy snaps back, saying they can't because Uncle Francis isn't welcome there. Fiona wanted to keep Lily entertained, so she brought her to this creepy room with an old burial casket she found in the ruins. Just as they're talking, Jonathan calls out to Fiona, asking for help with finding some longbook. Fiona heads off to help him for a bit. Lily, left alone, can't resist touching the casket, but as she does, she gets this weird vibe like there's something nasty and demonic lurking inside. Later on, we find Lily chilling out in her room, sipping some vodka. At the same time, Jonathan knocks on the door to check on Lily. Lily offers him some vodka and he happily takes it. He sits down beside her and says she can ask him for anything she needs, resting his hand on her thigh. It's all a bit too close, but she doesn't seem to mind and says she'll definitely ask if she needs anything. John leans in and kisses her in a way that feels way off and kinda inappropriate. Afterward, he leaves. Now Lily's left alone again, still drinking, and suddenly she notices a bunch of crows perched on this dried-up tree outside the hotel. Lily can't look away as if she were possessed. In the wake of this, she emerges from the shadows. After all that, she steps out of the shadows, feeling like something's pulling her toward this casket. Lily grabs a hook from the shelf and heads straight for it. Before you know it, she smashes the casket open. And just like that, she's thrown back to a time with the Morrigans, dressed up as one of their followers. Then out of nowhere, a bunch of monks sneaks up on her and captures her. It gets heavy and they end up brutally slaughtering her. The next morning, Lily wakes up in her hotel room, totally relieved to realize it was just a bad dream. But then Fiona walks in and starts laying into her for opening the casket without asking first. Honestly, Lily isn't even tuning in. Fiona just grabs a bottle of vodka and storms out of the room. Fiona comes into the room and sees the casket only to find a skeleton inside. Soon she returns with Jonathan. Sean enters Lily's room with some food. Lily calls him over to the bathroom, but where she lies naked in the bathtub. Sean doesn't feel it good and slips away from the room. Lily is behaving strangely, as if there were a nasty demonic entity inside her body. Sean immediately informs Fiona and the others about Lily's strange behavior. Anxious, Fiona goes to check on Lily. She knocks on the door, but Lily doesn't answer it. Lily looks into the mirror and realizes that she's gradually changing. Lily's been throwing up black blood and even some of her hair. It's pretty obvious Morrigan's spirit is taking over her body, as it is she who freed her spirit from the casket. Sean is freaking out and decides to reach out to Uncle Francis over the radio. He tells him about Lily that he kinda likes but feels like something's seriously off with her. He asks Francis if he's coming over. Francis replies that it's already too late. Just then, the power unexpectedly goes out and their chat gets cut short. Lily's in her room, twisting and turning in pain because the Queen Morrigan is taking over her body. Meanwhile, Jonathan is heading to his room when he suddenly hears someone calling his name. Curious, he follows the voice and walks into Lily's room. He calls out to her, asking if she's alright, but it's just crickets in response. Now a bit worried, he starts looking for her. He's totally caught off guard when he spots handprints all over the ceiling and walls. Before he can even react, Morrigan appears and drags him up to the attic. Jonathan's scream wakes everyone up. Fiona asks Connor to go and get Malachi while she goes into Lily's room to see what's up with Jonathan. As she steps inside, she spots this huge hole in the ceiling. Then out of nowhere, Jonathan's bruised body drops down from the attic. Fiona tries to ask him about Lily, but before he can say a word, he just dies. Freaked out, Fiona shines a light into the attic and catches sight of these glowing green eyes. Suddenly, she's overtaken by Morrigan. At that moment, Malachi and Connor rush into the room and snap Fiona back to reality. Malachi grabs his gun and tells Sean to stay put with the others while he heads into the attic himself. He keeps his gun ready, scanning the space, but finds nothing at first. Just when he thinks it's all clear, Morrigan leaps out and sends him crashing down into the basement. Sean and Connor are really trying to break into the room to save Malachi, totally clueless that Morrigan has possessed him. Meanwhile, Francis shows up at the hotel because Sean called him. He steps inside and sees Sean looking scared out of his mind. Everyone's pushing against the door, but it's stuck tight while Malachi is still under Morrigan's possession. With no other choice, Francis heads up to the attic to find a solution. When he gets there, he spots Morrigan, but she's using Lily's body to control Malachi through a hole in the ceiling. Before she can catch on, Francis sneaks up and ropes her in. With this, Malachi's possession breaks. Sean finally busts into the room and checks on his father. Up in the attic, Father Francis is busy tying Morrigan up with ropes. He tells Fiona that whatever Morrigan is pulling off, she is only able to do it through Lily's eyes, since she's not as strong as she used to be because hibernating for decades takes a toll. Fiona is curious and asks who's really behind this. Francis responds that it's not Lily but something darker inside her. He then inquires about what Fiona found at the ruins. She mentions that she uncovered a burial casket with a woman's skeletal remains inside. Fiona points out the inscription she found on the wall that led them to the casket. Then she mentions that as she got closer to the casket, she had a vision where she was one of Morrigan's followers. Just as she's saying this, Malachi walks in and says he saw the same thing. Francis turns to Morrigan and points out that she was hunting for Morrigan, and now her daughter just opened the casket. Fiona, sounding pretty adamant, says there's no supernatural Morrigan messing with anyone and she doesn't possess women. At this point, Sean, who's kinda clueless, asks who this Morrigan even is. Fiona fills him in, saying Morrigan is a pagan goddess, like a real queen who gets her power through killing, violence, and war. Leaving Fiona shocked, Francis explains that she and Lily had unknowingly freed Morrigan. Then they all start to devise a plan to kill Morrigan. Fiona pleads with Priest Francis to get Morrigan out of Lily's body before things get ugly. They take a bathtub and dunk Lily's head under the water while Francis starts saying a bunch of prayers from the Bible. Inside Lily, Morrigan starts thrashing around trying to break free. Connor, getting really freaked out, bolts out of the attic. Malachi and Sean are doing their best to keep Morrigan's head down, but Fiona's mom instincts kick in hard. She begs them to stop because she's terrified her daughter is gonna drown. Over all this, the water starts to steam away and Lily's skin begins to sizzle. Then, out of nowhere, Morrigan bursts through the flames and stares directly at Fiona. As Morrigan descends the stairs levitating, she confronts Connor, who is already trembling with fear. The others rush down in an attempt to help Connor, but it is too late for them. Fiona reminds Francis that he has previously knocked Morrigan out and urges him to do it again. Francis responds that Morrigan is immortal and cannot be killed, but they might eliminate her if they manage to end the life of her human host, Lily. Francis warns that if Morrigan escapes Annan Island, she will annihilate humanity and they can't save Lily. In a desperate moment, Fiona grabs a gun and warns everyone to stay away from her daughter. Malachi steps in and knocks her out as she has become a hindrance. Afterward, Sean, Francis, and Malachi prepare to face the demon queen Morrigan. To locate Lily, Malachi employs his dog, Ruby. Meanwhile, Fiona wakes up in the shed and attempts to open the door, only to find it locked from the outside. In the woods, Francis apologizes to Malachi for failing to rescue his wife Mary from Morrigan. Malachi forgives him and they make amends. Fiona devises an escape plan by using a gas cylinder to blow the door apart, allowing her a narrow escape from the shed. Back in the woods, Malachi, Sean, and Francis divide to search for Morrigan, but this tactic proves unsuccessful. Malachi is troubled by a crow that ultimately shoves him into a pit. He struggles to rise but fails, and soon after he spots Morrigan sitting in a tree in the distance. Malachi knows his time's up and he tells his wife he's coming to join her. But then Morrigan drops a bombshell. She tells him that Mary doesn't want to see him in heaven because she took her own life just to get away from him. That's when Morrigan takes over Malachi and hits him with a vision of Mary's last moments. Then Morrigan unleashes these snakes and has them bite him. Meanwhile, Sean and Francis are on a frenzied hunt for Malachi and finally find him lying in a pit lifeless with a snake slithering into his mouth. Sean gets carried off by the shock, but Francis manages to hold it together. Fiona rushes upstairs looking for a tranquilizer. Sean decides to let his dog go free, hoping she'll find Lily in the ruins. Fiona jumps into the jeep and drives away to save her daughter. Sean hears his dog's cries but panics when Ruby doesn't come back. Out of nowhere, Sean hears Morrigan's scream echoing through the monastery. Just when things are about to go south for him, Francis grabs him and yanks him into this tunnel, saying he knows where Morrigan is. They sneak a peek and see her on the edge of a cliff, staring down. Francis tells Sean he is gonna try to distract her, but if she sees him, Sean has to shoot without hesitating. Francis gets ready to make his move and Sean's trying to steady himself for the shot. But then out of the blue, Sean's dog comes charging back, all possessed and wild. It's a total shock. Back by the cliff, Morrigan is overpowering Francis, who's begging her for mercy. She hits him with a brutal reminder that her sisters deserved mercy too when the monks took them out. Sean has no choice at this point but to stab his own dog just to save himself. Meanwhile, Morrigan lifts Francis off the ground and tosses him over the cliff. Once he's out of the way, she turns to Sean, telling him he's still got some use to her. She uses him to satisfy her lust. Far from all this chaos, Fiona stumbles into the ruins of the monastery. She finds the skeleton of one of Morrigan's sisters and grabs a locket from it before moving on. A little further, she spots Sean, who's in pretty bad shape. He asks her what she is planning to do. Fiona says she's gonna hit Morrigan with a massive dose of insulin to send her into shock. Sean asks her for her rifle, saying he's ready to help out with the plan. Fiona hides into the shadows, keeping an eye out for Morrigan. Not long after, Morrigan struts in and sits down by a bonfire. Sean, feeling the pressure, suddenly leaps up and tries to shoot at her, but Morrigan, being the badass she is, catches the bullet right out of the air. Now, Morrigan sets her sights on Sean and he's pleading with her to spare his life. Meanwhile, Fiona's in a tough spot, holding onto that insulin overdose, knowing it could save her but would cost her daughter's life. Meanwhile, Morrigan brutally takes out Sean and decapitates him. Fiona, feeling desperate, kneels down and shows Morrigan a locket that belonged to one of her sisters. It's now or never, so she whips out a tranquilizer and jabs Morrigan with it. Almost immediately, Morrigan goes down, shaking on the ground. Rushing in, Fiona begs Morrigan to take her body and let her daughter go. Just like that, Morrigan agrees and swaps into Fiona's body, leaving Lily at once. As Lily comes to her senses, Fiona urges her to get out of the tunnel. But then reality hits Lily hard. Her mom has made the ultimate sacrifice for her. With a heavy heart, Lily makes her escape, but things aren't over yet. Morrigan fully takes over Fiona's body and starts hunting Lily down. Just when Lily thinks it's done, Morrigan gives her a chilling warning about being reborn before she gets buried alive. Moments later, a rescue team shows up at Annan Island. They can only find Lily, and when she wakes up, it's a shocking twist. She's not Lily anymore, she's Morrigan now. In the post-credits scene, we get a glimpse of Fiona still stuck in that tunnel, calling out for her daughter. It's a haunting way to end the story.